it was just a blast of culture that made me fall in love with the place, and the skiing over time became secondary. The human factor is what convinced me to stay here and to be an immigrant.
Welcome to the Storm. I'm your host, Stuart Winchester. South America is creeping in to the North American ski scene, both through Mountain Capital Partners' acquisition of a half dozen ski areas in Chile, and also most recently with Corralco becoming the first South American ski area to join the Indy Pass. We're going to get right into that. First, happy 2026. Thank you to all of the paid subscribers to the Storm Skiing Journal and Podcast who support my mission of independent ski journalism. If you would like to support me, you can do so by logging on to stormskiing.com and subscribing to the Storm Skiing newsletter. You can upgrade to the paid tier at any time, which gives you access to 100% of the Storm's paid content. We also have a merch store at stormskiing.myshopify.com. You can pick yourself up a hoodie, t-shirt, sticker, hat, etc. You know who else supports the Storm? The Slopes Ski Tracker app. They're back. I am so excited about this. I love Slopes. It is my favorite ski app. I've been using it for years, and I am so fired up to partner with them again for the 2025 to 26 ski season. If you're not familiar with Slopes, it is an incredible ski tracker app. It compiles your stats by day, by trip, by season, by lifetime. There is real-time tracking of your friends while you're at the hill, including, this year, me, as I am a Slopes product ambassador. I am skiing all across America this winter, as I do every year, and if you want to track me down, I will hook you up with some Slopes stickers. To do that, you need a couple things. You need the Slopes app, and you need to follow me on Instagram to see where I'm skiing on any given day, and you will be able to find me. If you want to try Slopes, you can claim a free premium day pass by clicking on the link in the article that accompanies this podcast on stormskiing.com. Find me, hopefully we can take a couple runs together. Before we get to Corralco, one more partner to tell you about, Island Snow Bus. Long Island, Queens skiers, I know you have a long way to drive for skiing. Trust me, I'm in the same neighborhood. If you are tired of waking up in the middle of the night and driving alone up to the bump, then driving all the way home after a ski day, give Island Snow Bus a try. They have pickups throughout Suffolk and Nassau counties and in eastern Queens near the Whitestone Bridge. Island Snow Bus plans single and multi-day trips to some of the best-known ski areas in the region, including Stratton, Killington, Mount Snow, Jay Peak, Sugarloaf, Whiteface, Gore, Bel Air, and Hunter. I featured almost all of those on the podcast, and I love skiing each and every one of them. If a big storm rolls through, Island Snow Bus will also throw together a pop-up trip. Island Snow Bus offers packages that include both lift tickets and transportation, or if you're rocking your own pass, just the bus ride. It is an early pickup, but then you can crash out and be ready to ski upon arrival. And there are always plenty of other folks looking for someone to ski with. To check out Island Snow Bus's 2025 to 26 winter calendar, visit islandsnowbus.com, where you can use the code STORM for $50 off your first trip. All right, time for episode 222 of the Storm Skiing Podcast. Jimmy Ackerson, General Manager of Corralco, Chile. My guest today has been General Manager of Corralco, Chile since 2014. Corralco rises 3,150 lift-served vertical feet on 7 lifts, including a high-speed quad installed in time for the 2025 winter, and offers more than 1,500 vertical feet of hike-to terrain from the top of the lifts. With more than 350 inches of average annual snowfall, Corralco consistently offers the longest ski season in Chile. He is a nearly 50-year veteran of Chilean skiing who spent 5 years as general manager of Valle Nevado Ski Resort and also did other roles at that ski area. And he spent 20 years with the Purcell family at Ski Portillo and La Parva. He has been president of the Chilean Ski Areas Association since 2018. Jimmy Ackerson is my guest. Jimmy, welcome to the Storm. We have been talking about making this one happen for years, and I am so fired up to get you in the heart of your ski season in South America. How you doing today, Jimmy?
I'm doing great, Stuart. Thanks so much for having me, and look forward to all our conversation.
So it's July 24th as we speak. So anchor my listeners here because the seasons are flipped, obviously, in the Southern Hemisphere. What would that be the rough equivalent to of the North American ski season? My calendar tells me it would be about the end of January, but I don't know if seasons work that way where you can just directly flip them. So where are we at in relation to that, and how is that season going so far?
Sure. Well, we're actually right about New Year's right now. Traditionally, we open up the third weekend in June, and we generally open up with 100% of the ski area. As you can see, the Lonquimay volcano collects a lot of snow. So we go normally from the 15th to the 20th of June until the 1st of November. Normally in the month of November, we have a lot of national teams here. So like in the Northern Hemisphere, not a whole lot of public in the month of October, but it's still great skiing, spring skiing.
Gosh, that volcano is just beautiful behind you. And you know, above tree line skiing can be tricky from a snowpack and retaining snowpack point of view. And I found this interesting when I was researching Chilean mountains recently when Mountain Capital Partners bought some resorts, which we'll talk about later. The highest peak in Chile only gets a couple inches of snow a year, and it doesn't hold it. And I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I'm sure you know it. But so tell us about Corralco, Jimmy, and the kind of snow you get and the way that snow falls and packs down so that you're able to retain it, which isn't necessarily a given the sort of landscape we're seeing behind you.
Well, Corralco sits at a latitude that's kind of similar to the state of Oregon in the western United States, and we're close to the Pacific. Obviously, the storm fronts come in strong. Corralco, which is located on the Lonquimay volcano, traditionally receives the greatest amount of snowfall of any lift-served area in the country. As you mentioned, the mountains are a little bit lower in the Andes range at this latitude, but that doesn't eliminate the fact that we receive a whole bunch of snow. And there's a couple of reasons that make Corralco such a magnificent place. One is that the storms come in from the northwest from an area of Chile on the coast called the Gulf of Arauco. Mm-hmm. And when the storms run inland and reach the Lonquimay volcano, it's the longest distance that storms travel over dry land of any ski area in the country. So that means when the fronts hit the Lonquimay volcano, generally speaking, the facets of the snowflakes are much more formed, and that makes that the snow piles up more. And unlike many ski areas in Chile, which were built many, many years ago before climate change was an issue, all of that great snow that hits the Lonquimay volcano drops onto the south and the southeast face, and that's where all of the lifts are located. And as Northern Hemisphere skiers know, the best slopes in a ski resort in the Northern Hemisphere is north and northeast exposures, and here it's south and southeast exposures. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why we get so much snow. And then on top of that, if you look at the volcano, 100% of the volcano up to about 2,500 meters is volcanic sand. And that means that we get a meter of snow. We can put out the grooming machines, groom everything to 50 centimeters of depth, and you can use your best skis and you're not going to hit anything. There's no rock on this massive mountain at all.
Well, that's tremendous. It sounds like you have a little bit of a Utah thing going on where the water has to travel over land and then just dumps when it hits the mountains. How does that snow come in? We all know in Tahoe, they get these mega dumps, like 6 feet of snow, 100 inches at a time. And sometimes it's super heavy. Sometimes it's okay. Then in Utah, they get a lot of snow, but it's very light. Do you get the snow? Do you tend to get it all at once? Do you get it in spurts? Is it consistent like lake effect? And what kind of snow do you get? Is it heavier? Is it lighter? Is it like Colorado?
Again, in general, the storms come in hard and strong off the Pacific, and we get consistent snowfall from about the 1st of June through the 30th, 31st of July. August tends to snow less, and traditionally there's a spring storm at the beginning of September, and then it's sun and corn from about the 15th, 20th of September to the end of the season.
Sounds unbelievable. Do you have a snowmaking system built out there, or you rely on natural?
No, we're 100% natural still, and we haven't found a good reason to invest in snowmaking. We look at it consistently with our trips to the industry fairs in Europe, but up until this point, it really hasn't been a necessity.
That is so interesting. There's so few areas of the world that can still support a ski operation reliably and with the long season like that. The Pacific Northwest of the United States is an example of a region where still snowmaking is fairly rare, but that's really neat, especially considering the big ski areas up in Chile, which I'm not telling you to do anything you don't already know, but have pretty extensive snowmaking systems. So, you mentioned the public access, and I want to hear a little more about that. It seems as though Corralco has established itself as this training ground for national ski teams in the Northern Hemisphere summer, obviously your winter. So talk to us a little bit about that, and then who's on site this summer or plans to be on site for winter. Excuse me.
Yeah, this is a program that we started here in Corralco when I arrived in 2014. Because of my experience in Portillo and Valle Nevado, I had a strong network of relationships with coaches and national federations. And like most ski areas, the springtime is a period when we're looking to bring in more skiers, and national teams seem to be one of the options or the best option. We have a downhill course that's considered by all that visit us as being extremely challenging, and a length that gives the athletes a real comparative run to what they would find in a World Cup race in the Northern Hemisphere. And that's one of the prime motivators. We receive a lot of teams for speed training, and you can appreciate, Stuart, that in the Northern Hemisphere, there's not many places left that will set up downhills just for training. And that's a huge attraction. That being said, this year we're ramping up to receive 15 national teams beginning on the 1st of September. That's all sizes, U.S. ski team women, World Cup team, German World Cup team women, U.S. development group men, speed training, Andorra, Spain, France, Switzerland. Esther Ledeca trains here from Slovakia, excuse me. Oh, no, Esther is Czech Republic. She comes on her own with the private group. This year, obviously, we're looking forward to receiving Breezy and Lindsay. Esther Ledeca also is a top run woman downhiller. And August is going to be a very interesting month for us because we have Carabasset Valley Academy from Maine, Proctor Academy from New Hampshire, and Green Mountain Valley School actually brings down the last 2 weeks of August, the whole school, 120 athletes. Wow. And those are all important business for us, and we enjoy taking care of them. When we have the teams in here, we start running at 7 o'clock in the morning, the lifts, and they train from 7 to 10 or 7 to 10:30, and then they do physical training, and GMVS even holds classes in our hotel when they come down.
So what's the reality of that for the recreational skier? It sounds like you have it staggered a little bit so that the national teams are in the morning, but sometimes I think the reason why a lot of large ski areas have stopped blocking off slopes is because as they're charging more for lift tickets and getting more of that destination guest, it's harder to justify. But places like Copper Mountain still do it. But in general, if I come down there and I'm skiing and I'm looking at your trail map right now, what is available to me and what can I expect to be blocked off if anything, is during the heart of the ski day for these national teams, and when?
Well, as I said, they'd only be blocked off to the general public from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we make a point of making sure that we have runs available off of every lift in the resort for the general public in that period from 9 to 10. You can also appreciate that here, when it snows, which is frequently, the groomed slopes have little relevance because as we're 100% above tree line, it's go, go, go and ski anywhere you want. And, we have all of the avalanche control issues that we have to deal with. But aside from that, it's really a great playground because as the winter progresses, you can ski more and more of the terrain, and magnificent terrain for backcountry skiers who do ski-mo. And certainly it's not about the groomed runs.
So, one thing that surprised me, Jimmy, as I started to research Southern Hemisphere skiing is there's really not that much of it. There's thousands of ski areas in the Northern Hemisphere, but there's fewer than 100 across Australia, New Zealand, Argentina, Chile, and there's a few scattered around, but those are the main 4 countries that offer it. So I'd imagine that these teams are looking for something particular that's not easy to find. That said, 2014 is relatively recently. What is it about Corralco that makes it so ideal?
Well, it's definitely the terrain. It's definitely the amount of terrain that can be prepared for all the disciplines. As they come in September and October primarily, they're looking for snow conditions that can mirror what they're going to be racing on in the Northern Hemisphere beginning on the first weekend in November. So as training has evolved, more and more teams are looking to having their on-snow training closer to the Northern Hemisphere skiing. So that's a big attraction. The other thing is the services that we can offer to them. We have 6 piston bullies with 2 winch cats that can make sure that the terrain that they're going to use is appropriate and prepared appropriately. Over the years, we've worked extensively with the coaches to, provide the best surface possible, and that's ended up working out in our favor. And again, as we mentioned, the guarantee of snow is one of the prime factors. And as the central region of Chile has had more challenges with natural snowpack, it's really given us an opportunity.
I would imagine another thing that they're liking is what I mentioned in the intro, that brand new, well, not brand new, but new for you, Vulcan high-speed quad, which, according to what I found online, you can correct us where it's wrong, replaced a double chair that took a 12-minute ride with a fast lift that takes 5.5 minutes. So tell us about this new machine, Jimmy, and how happy you and your skiers are with it so far.
Yeah, it's a long story. We were looking for a detachable quad for about 5 years, and it's a tough market for us because, as you know, the capital investment in any ski area has to do with what we call the queue or the quantity. You can't make massive investment in ski areas if you don't have enough day tickets being sold. And we've certainly challenged ourselves in getting a hold of this lift that we've reconditioned at a price that allows us to manage the capital investment and improve the experience for the skiers at the same time. As you said, we bought the lift from Holiday Valley in New York, and Dennis Espa and all of his team up there did a great job of taking the lift down. And we hired a crew of people from Hunter Mountain, New York, actually, to do all the consolidation and inventorying of the whole lift. Obviously, when you get into these issues of reinstalling a lift, how it's taken down and how it's consolidated into, in this case, 26 different containers, flat racks to be shipped by sea. All of that part of it is really, really important. And then, setting it back up, we worked with a guy named Ross Stevens from New Hampshire who did all the re-engineering of the lift. This lift, as it was an older lift in terms of the brand Garaventa, which is now part of Doppelmayr, Garaventa oversized the motor on it, and that allowed us to change the profile and the length of the lift without any concerns. So that's what it's about, is we don't have any choice here in most of the ski areas in Chile, but to look at reconditioning lifts. As you probably know, the price of a new lift today, turnkey, is absolutely prohibitive for the amount of visitors that we receive. So it's worked out great. I've had lots of phone calls from other people in the industry asking us how we did it. And we did it with a team of mountain workers, collaborators that put it all together, and along with Ross Stevens, re-engineering, and a couple of good engineers here. And we also relied on a guy named Andy Pierce out of northern Vermont, who was the individual that actually did the whole drive and electronics of the lift when it was new. And he came down and helped us out and made sure that the lift was running safe. And so far, so good. When you buy a used or reconditioned lift, all the irons virtually indestructible, and you have to make sure the electronics and all of the sensors for the safety issues are up to snuff. But we're really happy with it, and it's going to serve us well for the next 20 years or so.
Can you take us a little bit into the logistics? Because this fascinates me. This notion of moving lifts around. And I always love these stories. How did you get a lift of this size from Western New York, which is near the United States East Coast, to the West Coast of South America? Did you truck it across land? Did you go East Coast port and take it through the canal? I can't even begin to fathom the logistics of global movement and shipping. So just tell us the story of this lift and what it went through and how long it took.
Well, the lift was started being removed the day after Holiday Valley closed in spring of 23. Mm-hmm. And then it was consolidated by this team from Eastern New York. Once it was consolidated into all of the different kinds of containers and flat racks, very carefully and very professionally, it actually was taken to a consolidation yard in Buffalo, and it was put on trains to go to New York City, and the lift, actually, all of the containers were shipped out of New York. Okay. On a container ship, and they go through the Panama Canal to get to the west coast of South America, and approximately 40 days after it leaves the port of New York, it arrives in the closest port to us in the south of Chile, and then there's 26 trucks with moving all of the containers and flat racks, lots of highway permits, and lots of logistics and coordination, and in this case, the lift actually left port on the 20th of August of 23, more or less, and it was unpacked and in our parking lot on the 1st of October.
I mean, I think we've all had the experience of opening an IKEA box and wondering if we have all the parts. I mean, what was that like, opening 26 shipping containers, and did they all arrive as scheduled?
Everything arrived as scheduled. We had no lag on any of the containers. Everything that came on flat racks came on one ship. Everything that was in 40-foot containers came on another ship. We even shipped to Chile all the towers because we did a lengthy analysis to see if we would fabricate all the towers here, and it was significantly less expensive for us to bring the towers in. So that's what contributes to the 26 containers. But all of that all of that just is just logistics, and we hope that, or you asked me if everything arrived. Sure, everything arrived because we stayed very close to what the consolidation of all of the shipping was. We actually sent up my mountain manager and our electrician to participate in the removal of the lift. And as I said, the folks at Holiday Valley were just fantastic.
Yeah, Holiday Valley is one of the best run operations in the country. And I had actually hosted Dennis on this podcast as they were preparing to take this lift down. He said, "Oh yeah, we're looking at a ski area in Chile." I said, "Oh, is it Corralco?" And he said, "Yes." So they are also a very busy ski area, and they run one of the longest ski days in the country. So I'd imagine this lift had a lot of hours on it, and you said it was refurbished. Also interesting, at Holiday Valley, the lift, according to Lift Blog, was 4,230 feet long, 688 vertical feet. At Corralco, according to what I've found online, which is not on Lift Blog, it's on a different site, the new alignment, 4,921 feet long. You said it was longer, and 1,148 vertical feet. You mentioned the towers. You mentioned refurbishing the lift. Just tell us how you put this thing together in a completely different configuration, what you changed, what you had to reuse. Did you need more towers? Just take us into this as much as you can here, Jimmy.
Sure. Yeah, as I said, the key part of the planification of it has to do with having an engineer like Ross Stevens out of New Hampshire, who he's old school, and he's done this for years and years now of doing re-engineering for ski areas that move lifts within the same ski area, or that sell lifts and have to be reinstalled in another ski area. And the engineering is key. We actually had to do work on about 4 towers, modifying their height, increasing their height, and then we had to add 3 towers to the line. We had a company out of Salt Lake City that provided us with shiv trains and cross members for those towers, part of the PAMA group. And the reality is that if you have good engineering, you have a good project manager on site, it's all Lego, and putting all the iron together is, you got to follow the drawings concisely, and then things will work out. Everything related to the line, that is cable, towers, pulleys, all of that part of it is pretty straightforward, and everything's available to recondition it. We put a new cable on the lift that we brought in from Fatzer in Switzerland. That was obviously an important part of it because of the age of the lift. Holiday Valley, I will say, did a pretty darn good job in maintaining the lift, and that's key too. And that's one of the factors that we dealt with when it came time to purchase it. We looked at a number of other lifts, and as far as the work that Holiday Valley did with the lift, pretty much the only ones that had lifts that would be maintained as well as theirs were in Austria. So it's a process, and you have to be prepared, and you have to believe that you can make it work, and all the iron's good. And in terms of the terminals, the technology is pretty similar to what it is today. The electronics are very different. So fortunately, Chile, being a country that's still developing, all of the electronics are pretty much in service here. And something maybe a lot of people don't know is that the agricultural industry and packing plants and the forest industry and processing pulp and things like that, they use a lot of the same control components that lifts do. And that gives us a lot of experts in this country, given that the country is a strong agricultural and forestry country. So we're pretty confident that as time goes on, we'll be able to handle everything. And that's the idea, is to make sure that the lift is safe, and make sure that it's maintained appropriately. I'm very hardcore. I work for a board of directors, and budgets for maintenance never get touched.
Mm-hmm.
And we do all of our own maintenance. We bring in the only thing that we outsource is we bring in a company from France to do cable and grip testing every 2 years, and that makes us confident that we're offering a good product and the lift will serve us well.
So you got it done, you got the thing down there, and it sounds like you have a good plan to keep it running for a long time. For folks who may be familiar with Corralco but have not been there, this season, it looks, again, this is what I found online, as though it unloads about 150 vertical feet higher on the mountain than that old double chair. Talk about that change, why you made it, and what sort of impact that's had.
Well, that has to do with the increase in visits that we've been experiencing. We are located 750 kilometers south of Santiago, which is the capital of Chile. And just to give people a little heads up on what Chile's about, the city of Santiago has just about 9 million inhabitants at this point, and the country as a whole has about 18 million.
Okay.
So it's an extremely centralized country.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a regional ski area first and foremost, and we draw skiers from all the smaller cities in the south of Chile, and it's been growing dramatically for us. You read all about how the business is flat. There's pockets, and this is one of those pockets where from the cities of Chillán, Concepcion, Los Angeles, Temuco, Valdivia, Puerto Montt, Osorno, we're drawing more and more skiers, and we're creating more and more skiers, and it's a very interesting time for Corralco in that regard. So, lift changes have to do with the number of visitors you're receiving. Holiday Valley, for example, removed this lift before it was necessary because they needed to install a six-pack. So that was our opportunity, and that's the way it goes here too. We had a double chairlift, and we needed to up capacity. The section of the mountain that it attends to is the section of the mountain that has the greatest number of groomed trails on the whole mountain, and that was important to us. If you're depositing more skiers at the top of a lift, you have to make sure that you have the correct square feet or square meters of terrain available for those skiers to travel over. We pride ourselves on being a ski area that does not have a high level of skier density on the slopes, and that even lets an old guy like me ski at the speed I like most of the time.
Jimmy, I was talking to Bill Jensen yesterday, and he played a very important part in the growth of Vail Resorts and Intrawest and a whole bunch of different ski areas over the course of the development of the lift-served American ski industry. And he threw a stat at me that suggested that a high-speed lift in the earlier days of them would generally pull skier visits up about 20-25%. Curious if you've seen that sort of impact already from your lift, if the word's getting out, if folks are saying, okay, this is different, let me go check this out.
Yeah, sometimes you have to analyze the things with a lot of different factors, but certainly one of them is the marketing value of the installation of a high-speed lift, and that's proven true for us so far this year. Our skier visits to date are above the 24 season, and we believe that will continue. You look, when you generally make this kind of investment, you look to jump in skier visits maybe 20% when you're at about 100,000 skier visits. So that's where we're at, and that's what's happening, and we're happy for that. Again, to all of the lift service terrain we have, though we have surface lifts and chair lifts, give skiers all the terrain they could possibly want without any significant lift lines, as long as we keep our comfortable carrying capacity under revision.
100,000 is great, and it's higher than I would have expected, and most U.S. ski areas your size would be pretty pleased with those numbers, especially being a little bit of a distance from the city. I do want to talk a lot more about Chilean skiing and the evolution of it in your firsthand view. But first, I want to back up here, Jimmy. I think most listeners will probably guess you're not from Chile. You're American. Tell us where you grew up and your early ski story.
Sure. First of all, I tell people that I have a U.S. passport, but I have a Chilean heart. And that's the way it's worked out. But I grew up in Connecticut. Grew up with a dad that wasn't a skier, but thought it would be a good activity for the kids. I actually had my first skiing experience when I was about 4 years old at a YMCA camp in northwestern Connecticut called Camp Jewel. And I can still remember clearly to this day the first time I made a parallel turn with an Austrian ski instructor on this little 2-rope tow hill. And it had a profound effect on me, so much so that our dad supported my brother and I in skipping school every so often to go up to Western Massachusetts or into Southern Vermont. And by the time I was a teenager, I had become quite involved in ice hockey. And as most skiers know, the skills of ice skating or ice hockey are very transferable to skiing. And so that was my road into the ski industry. Once I went into college, in Connecticut, I discovered Sugarbush Valley, and that's where I started my ski teaching career, and learned very quickly with a legend in terms of ski school direction, Siggy Grottendorfer, and he, at the same time that he was the ski school director in Sugarbush, Vermont, he was also the ski school director in Portillo, Chile. And that was the opportunity that I had at 19 years old to go to Chile for the first time, get off the plane and see military guys with machine guns in their hands and see tanks parked on the street in the city. 5 years after the coup had occurred here in Chile. And, it was the start of a great adventure. I spent 18 years traveling between Vermont and Chile, first in Sugarbush, and then I became the ski school director in Bromley. And then shortly thereafter, I became the ski school director in Heavenly Lake Tahoe. If I had known what the weather was like in California, I probably wouldn't have spent as many years as I did in Vermont. But aside from that, 1995, with my Chilean wife, we decided to relocate to Chile so that I could assume the marketing and sales manager position at Portillo. So it's been a long, wild ride, and I've had no regrets. I've had a magnificent time all these years. I am very, very passionate about customer service and the experience we deliver. And somehow I've been able to convince a lot of Chilenos that don't really, or that didn't really know what they had for so many years, that this is really fertile ground here, and we can offer something magnificent. So that's what we've been doing, and I'm glad to have been a part of it here in Chile. I will mention that part of my story is that as I try and decide how I'm going to retire here, believe it or not, one of the thoughts that I have that I'm going to act upon is to return to ski teaching, and that will probably be in Utah, where our two oldest kids live now, and spend part of the year here in Chile and part of the year there, and spend my time, the amount of time I want, teaching skiing.
Where in Utah?
Probably at Snow Basin. I really enjoy Snow Basin. It's a great, great mountain, and I'm not a particular fan of the bigger ski areas where the numbers are huge. It's not what this time of my life is going to be about. And we really like Ogden, Utah, and Salt Lake City, and I think it's a good place to be. And as our two oldest, who grew up here in Chile, now live in Salt Lake City, and work related to skiing and the outdoor industries, that's a good place for us to be.
Quick break here to tell you, if you run a ski area or outdoor brand, you should consider hooking up with my friends at Bonfire Collective. Bonfire Collective is a fractional marketing team that collaborates specifically with ski areas and outdoor brands. They will give your marketing a fresh perspective and better storytelling to supercharge your rebranding or advertising. Bonfire can help you rethink your approach in ways that can turbocharge your business. For example, they took on the marketing at one New Hampshire ski area and doubled revenue in just 3 years. And I am speaking from firsthand experience here. When the Storm was ready to invest in our first ever digital marketing campaign in 2024, I worked with Bonfire to make it happen, and I brought them back for a second round this winter because I was so satisfied with the results. I love working with them because they do great work and because they are great people who are genuinely pleasant to be around. If you want to get started with Bonfire Collective, you can start that process by talking to Eric over at Bonfire Collective. Eric was a co-founder of Bluebird Backcountry, Colorado, the first human-powered ski area. He knows the ski business, as many of my listeners realize, because Eric came on the podcast last year and told that story. Visit bonfirecollective.com to connect with Eric, or I will be happy to make that connection for you. Back to it. So talk to us a little bit about Chile and what kept you coming back all these years. I mean, the Andes are remarkable and one of the most dramatic landscapes in the world, and it's easy to see the appeal of visiting there. But as you mentioned, when you first went down, there's military in the airport. It was a difficult time in the nation's history, and that went on for a while. So that would be easy, I would think, to be intimidated by that and say, okay, that's nice, but I can't be involved in that. What kept you going back? What is special about Chile? And I realize you married, but down there, and that probably had something to do with it. But what is it about the country, the people, the culture that has kept you down there and really pulled you down there to spend a really good part of your life there?
Well, Henry Purcell once said in a interview in Skiing magazine, back when those things existed, he once said in the late 70s, when asked about if it was dangerous to go skiing in Chile, his response was, people who go looking for good skiing find good skiing. People who go looking for trouble find trouble. And that's certainly what I found to be the case here in Chile. Magnificent people, an incredible geography, and just a incredible experience for me culturally. And in terms of growth that I couldn't have imagined. I initially came here because the skiing looked to be kick-ass, and I wanted to experience skiing in the Andes and obviously skiing in the summertime. And quickly I found out that what I was falling in love with was the Chilean people and the country's geography. So culturally, it's been a wondrous, wondrous ride. And for a kid growing up in New England in a fairly sheltered environment, learning a new language, Spanish, and relating with Brazilians, with Europeans, you can appreciate the time I came into the Portillo ski school. There were about the same number of Euros as there were Americans and Chilenos together. So, it was just a blast of culture that it made me fall in love with the place, and the skiing over time became secondary. I'm a skier first and foremost above everything, but the human factor is what convinced me to stay here and to be an immigrant.
Yeah,
and I think it's good for all of us as Americans to learn how to be immigrants. Without making any kind of political statement.
So you settled in a place that sounds like you're really happy in, and you worked your way through Portillo, Valle Nevado, La Parva, ski areas that most of my listeners, if they're familiar with skiing in Chile at all, have heard of those ski areas. Typically the most well-known. Valle is now on Icon Pass and Mountain Collective. Talk about those ski areas and your journey through them, and then ultimately, and it looks like you might have left skiing for a little bit. So talk about how they set you up to run Corralco eventually, and just give us that story from Portillo on.
Sure. Well, Portillo is an icon in the ski industry, not just in Chilean skiing. It has the history of being the first place and only place that a world championship of skiing was held in the summertime of the Northern Hemisphere. And many people don't know that Portillo was the place where the World Cup of skiing was born, in the bar in Portillo. And as a ski area, I think it's just so compact and so magnificent. You ski as high as the snow sticks to the rock, and obviously with the setting of the Inca Lake, you're just in a winter wonderland that's really, really particular. And the Hotel Portillo is like being on a cruise ship. Many people don't understand that primarily the resort attends to the hotel guests, which would be about 500 skiers. And with more than a dozen lifts there, it's just an incredible playground for the folks who are staying in the hotel. And then in addition to that, Hotel Portillo is an establishment that just has excellence in service that is probably only seconded in the Americas by Deer Valley. They go out of their way to make memorable experiences for everyone, with a very magnificent old hotel, but that is totally modern in all of the services it offers. And then the central region, obviously, what's going on with La Parva, El Colorado, Valle Nevado, and Parque Farallones. That's a huge ski domain, and those four ski domains coming together and offering really a world-class level destination resort, an hour and a half, 2 hours from a metro area, is just really significant. And that part of the Andes where those ski areas are located is not as aggressive as Portillo is in terms of terrain, but they are literally intermediate skiers' paradise with a lot of good high-end skiing as well. As you move farther south, the Andes lose summit elevation, not vertical drops. And Chillán, south of Santiago, 400 kilometers, magnificent ski area. Corralco, a different experience, and there's smaller ski areas farther south from there. But the beauty of the skiing in Chile is that each one of the ski areas that are in the Ski Areas Association really, really are very unique ecosystems. And, the geography of the Andes is magnificent. The people are warm everywhere. But, if you come to Chile to go skiing and you visit more than one ski area, try and get from one region to another, because the experiences each is totally unique.
So you ran Valley for a while, and it sounds like a very different environment down at Corralco. So talk about that transition and maybe why you left skiing for a little while, but what from Valley helped you to run Corralco, and what was different, and then maybe what you did in between, and how that helped you to shape Corralco for the past decade plus.
Sure. I was very fortunate in my career in the ski industry of pretty much never having ever to put together a resume. I just moved to learn and learned to move, and people gave me opportunities to grow and become better at understanding the ski industry. So, that's basically the way that worked, and going from a ski teacher in Sugarbush to being a ski school director in Bromley, to being a director of skiing in Heavenly, to being a ski instructor in Portillo, to being the ski school director in La Parva, to being the ski school director in Portillo, to doing marketing and sales. And all of it one step on top of the other, all the way through the time where I was named general manager of Valle Nevado. And I was the general manager in Valle Nevado from 2000 to 2006, and it was my first GM's job. And the owners of the resort, which had brought me in when they purchased the resort, they had a very strong bent towards real estate development. And I, as an idealistic, hardcore, passionate skier, had a different vision that I thought that the ski area had to become the best ski area in the Southern Hemisphere, and then the real estate part would sell itself. And by 2006, I made an agreement with the board of directors to be in permanent disagreement, and they fired me. So at 48 years old, basically I sat down with my wife and our kids. Our oldest at that time was 13 years old, and there were two options: either pack the bags and go to the States, where I had a certain knowledge of the industry and could step back into it there, or reinvent myself. And because we were so adamant about the fact that Chile was the best place that we could raise our children, where they could be well protected, where they could receive an excellent private education, we decided that I would reinvent myself, and I became first a project manager and then a GM of a oceanfront eco luxury resort in the south of Chile that was developed by a company out of the Carolinas called the Cliffs Communities, which was a large real estate development company with an owner that was passionate about the south of Chile, basically for fly fishing. So spent 9 years developing that project, which was very, very interesting. I got to learn a lot about luxury hospitality. I created the operating company, and we put together programs and products that were really unprecedented in the south of Chile, with the exception of the Explora Hotel in Torres de Paine in deep Patagonia. So it was a magnificent experience. And as I said, through my career, excellence in service and relational service have really been the things that I've been passionate about. And the experience with the Cliffs Communities was just built on that, understanding the extremely demanding, extremely high expectation clientele that is the luxury tourism segment. And coming back into the ski industry after 9 years to Corralco, certainly all of the experience that I had built my years on, from Portillo to Valle Nevado and through the Cliffs Communities, are things that I've worked to put together here in Corralco in the last 11 years.
Really interesting story. It echoes, I don't know if you know a fellow named Brad Wilson who runs Bogus Basin Ski Area up in Idaho, but he was a longtime ski guy, then left for like a decade or so to run Catalina Island off the coast of California, and then came back to skiing, got his opportunity to be a GM at Diamond Peak in Nevada, and then now Bogus Basin. And I'll ask you the same question I asked him. You know, clearly you're a skier, and that's what drew you and sort of guided your life for years. How much did you miss it when you were gone? How did you tend to that bug, and what ultimately drew you back in? Was it you just had to be back to it?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's pretty funny, because by the time, as I say, by the time I made the decision to be in permanent disagreement with Valle Nevado, I was pretty burned out on being a GM. It was my first job, and the demands and the stress was extremely high. Excellent years of magnificent growth in Valle Nevado, and we did a lot of great things, but the whole environment of having to report to a board of directors and that side of the responsibilities at my relatively young age took its toll on me. So when I left Valle Nevado, I was pretty sour on on ski industry in general, not because of my career in it, but because of what had occurred in Valle Nevado. And the time I was away from skiing, I actually spent the first 5 years never putting a pair of skis on.
Oh, wow.
And what was really cool about that, Stuart, was when I got back into it 5 years later, as I'm a passionate skier, I was really enthralled with all of the technological improvements in the equipment and just wanted to get out there and rip it up. And that's what I did. And as each year passed that I was working on the coast, we skied more. And certainly the folks from Corralco, the directors, had known me from before and known the experience I had. So it was an opportunity for me to bring my knowledge into a company that was just taking off on a wild ride, and Corralco and the surrounding communities are still in a process of genesis of becoming a destination. But that's what it was about, and it's worked out great.
So you sit out 5 years and you can't believe the technological changes when you come back. Let's rewind. Let's supersize that. Rewind to the 1970s. And a lot of my listeners are really familiar with Sugarbush. I love Sugarbush. And some things would be similar there from the 1970s. Castle Rock is still no snowmaking with a double chair. But they have the Slidebrook Express and high-speed lifts connected to Mount Ellen, all this stuff. So talk to us about Chilean skiing when you arrived in the 70s and how that's evolved over the years and what it looks like today.
Well, already when I arrived in the 70s in the United States, they had snowmaking and they had grooming, relatively rudimentary in its finished product, the grooming. But when I arrived in Chile for about the first 4 years, you were still first boot packing the slope and then ski packing the slope. And after you did 3 or 4 rounds of that on the plateau in Portillo, you got to make a run, and that was the reality of the industry as such at that time. Henry Purcell, the owner, has always tried to be on top of things, but certainly he's been the leader in making sure that Portillo moves forward with all the available technology. And as far as the rest of the ski areas go, we do our best to stay current with the advancements in the industry. We have a tendency in general to look at Europe. For example, myself, I attend every year either the Mountain Planet seminars and fair in Grenoble, which is the largest fair for the ski industry in France. And then the other year I attend Interalpen in Innsbruck, Austria. And those are the kind of vehicles that we all need today to truly understand what all the developments are that are going on. But we give it our best shot, and we try and stay as current as we can, and try and keep up. We're still a part of the world that's in development, and that goes for all industry in Chile. So lots of opportunities to copy things, if you will, from other parts of the world and implement them here and improve the experience of our visitors.
So I was really impressed when I was researching, prepping for this podcast, with how much Corralco has evolved just in the past 20 years, at least according to what I see online. And again, I'll let you fill in the blanks here, but I'm looking at a trail map right now from 2008, and there's just 2 surface lifts and a handful of runs. And then all of a sudden, starting around 2010, they start putting in a lift every year or two and expanding up the mountain. So what can you tell us about the history of Corralco before your arrival, and what sparked this larger scale development around 2010 or so?
Well, the actual, we're the only ski area in Chile that's actually built within a national reserve. It's a more common situation in the United States, but here it isn't. And we have a founder, so to speak, or president of the board of directors, Enrique Bascour, who in 2002 was quite visionary. He was a passionate skier, actually worked in investment banking in New York City, and he was the one that convinced the National Forest Service in 2002 to give him a concession or a lease on 1,800 square hectares of this national reserve for a ski resort, and they gave it to him for 45 years. Okay. And 50 years is kind of the norm in the States. Here, when Enrique accomplished that, the norm was somewhere between 10 and 15 years. And you can appreciate that 10 and 15 years doesn't give you much of an opportunity to put capital into a project, and 45 years certainly does. So Enrique, with another partner, started in 2003, and immediately they installed a second lift because the first lift was part of a government program for sports associated with a government program for the military. Okay. And the first lift, which we still use today, which is a PAMA lift, was installed by the military and the sports ministry to train the military for a possible invasion of Argentina. And now, thank God, none of that ever happened, but that was the mindset in the military at the time. And there was battalions here that trained to be the 10th Mountain version of the military in Chile. So that's how it started. Enrique had the vision, and in 2010 he brought in a couple other investors. And 2012-13 we built a beautiful purpose-built hotel that is excellent for extended stays, with a huge living room and excellent dining facilities and spacious rooms. And that was the start of, let's make sure that the ski area moves at the same speed as the other investments that are occurring. And then I will take a moment to mention to you that part of all this that was going on with Corralco itself, I'm extremely active in the community. And here in Chile, most of the ski areas are purpose-built resorts that have very little relationship with the communities that they're located in. Okay. The central region, in La Parva, El Colorado, Valle Nevado, they're having to put together sustainability plans and projects in order to be more active in the community or municipality that they're located in. I had to start doing that 11 years ago, and I enjoyed it immensely, having a close relationship with the community, work together to develop a tourism destination, and that's contributed greatly to our accelerated growth. You can appreciate that when I came to Corralco in 2014, there were about 400 beds available in the valley 10 kilometers away from us for tourists. Today, there's over 2,800. Wow. So, that part of it certainly contributes to our ability to have more multi-day visitors and keep the winter season stable. We're still struggling, like many ski areas in North America did years ago, to not have the tourism movement flatline the rest of the seasons in the year. And we're working hard on that to convert Malacahuello and the mountains, led by Corralco, to become a year-round destination. It's a lot of fun, and working with the community is key.
I would imagine those community relations help to answer my next question, but one of the reasons why I was doubly impressed by the growth at Corralco is when Mountain Capital Partners announced recently that they were purchasing 4 ski areas in Chile, two of them you mentioned, El Colorado and Farallones, which are up north by connected to La Parva and Valle. The other two, Pilon, correct pronunciation, and Volcano Sorno, I saw the opposite when I looked back at the history of those ski areas, and that they'd been shedding lifts and shedding terrain. And again, I'm looking at this from thousands of miles away. I don't have the local context. I don't really know what was going on, and I wasn't able to get that background. But why do you suppose Corralco is able to go and grow while these other ski areas are shrinking?
Those two ski areas are particular cases. In the case of Villarrica or Pucón, or Pian as it's called today, Pian has the lifts located on the wrong side of the volcano. And that had to do with the fact that in the time that it was first developed, there weren't any issues with climate change. So they basically built the road up to the snowfields the easiest way up. Okay. And that ended up being on a northwestern side of the volcano. And they have lots of problems with the snow conditions. There's a tremendous difference in our case, between the southeast and south face than with the north and northeast face of the Lonquimay volcano. And that's what happened in Pian, is that through some decisions in its development and through some post situations with ownership changes, the ski area fell into disrepair. Andacor, the Colorado Parque Farallones company, took on a concession. I'm not sure how many years that concession is for, but I think their primary intention is to increase the use of it as a snowplay area, in the sense of having tubing, sledding, zip lines, things of that nature, because of its proximity to these growing communities of Pucón and Villarrica. And maybe someday they'll get into going back to having a network of ski lifts on that volcano. But as I said, it's pretty much on the wrong side of the mountain, so that's not a positive thing. In the case of Osorno, which is located in the community of Puerto Varas, they have a huge lake, the Yanquihue Lake, which is the second largest lake in Latin America. And that lake produces lake effect weather on the Osorno volcano, which many times can be precipitation in the form of water. Water, ice, then snow. And so the lifts that are up on the Osorno volcano, you have a tremendous challenge with hoarfrost and icing. But the reality of that business is that it actually has more visits spring, summer, and fall than it does in the winter. And that's because that view from up there and using the lifts and creating activities up there spring, summer, and fall is really a moneymaker because of the presence of the lake.
So picking up on those two ski areas, my guess, and they haven't confirmed this, but my guess is the Mountain Capital Partners purchased those because they came in the portfolio with El Colorado, which they really wanted because they purchased La Parva and they had purchased Valle Nevado. So now they will, if this deal is closed, own 6 ski areas in Chile and really one big one and 2 little ones down south that we just discussed. You've been down there for decades, right? And I'm sure that American tourists have always come. What's been your reaction, though, as you've watched American ski companies take an active interest in Chilean and South American skiing? We had Valle join Icon and Mountain Collective several years ago, and now you have Mountain Capital Partners coming down. What are your thoughts as you see this happening? Do you think it's good? Are you ambivalent? Would you rather, keep it local? Lay this out for us.
Well, I remember when I was working in California in the mid '80s, and this company Komori Kanko came in and bought Heavenly, and there was a lot of pushback about a Japanese company buying an American ski resort, and I always was of the opinion that they can't take it with them. They can't move the ski area to Japan,
Right.
and as long as they see that investing in the ski area and upgrading the ski area is a priority, it was all good for the consumer. In the case of Mountain Capital Partners, certainly we can say that the jury's still out because they're just getting started. But I'm a firm believer, and have been for many years and have been fairly outspoken about it, that the future of skiing in Chile is that those three ski areas have to be consolidated. And that's strictly from a business perspective, Stuart. The combination of the skier visits in the three ski areas is what will allow Mountain Capital Partners to develop an excellent plan of CapEx, in my opinion, and go bit by bit upgrading what will become one ski domain, and that's always positive for the users. The other thing that's interesting with Mountain Capital Partners is that they have very aggressive marketing in terms of their price structures and the benefits they give to the visitors. The idea of children up to 12 years old being able to ski for free or for the cost of printing a pass was unheard of here until Mountain Capital walked in the door. Today, most of the ski areas have adopted that with their pass sales.
Okay.
So there's a consumer benefit. I believe there's a developmental benefit, and there's some talk of some folks in the sense of monopoly, but I think it's all good. I'm a capitalist at heart, and I think that it's all good and will all benefit the consumer in the end.
How does Mountain Capital Partners avoid messing it up? What do they need to know about Chilean skiing, Chilean culture? What do they need to respect to make sure that they do this right?
That's a really, really good question, and that's something that I've always been intrigued by, is that the culture is different here. And it goes obviously far beyond the skiing culture. Skiing culture, I can tell you, it's very different than the United States, because you can count on a couple of hands how many people are skiing at 9 o'clock in the morning. The Chilean skier generally gets to the ski area at 11 o'clock in the morning. And that's because they've had easy access. They have parking, and not only is starting late part of their culture, having a long sit down lunch is part of their culture too. And that certainly doesn't necessarily apply to the fanatics, but that's the behavior, the culture of the general market. In terms of the culture in South America, I think that there's a lot you have to learn about what the levels of productivity are, what the motivations of the Chilean worker are, the reality that it's a country that has a long history of socialist leaning government. And that means that your workers, though maybe not unionized like can occur in the States, they are certainly more into the collective concerns. Wages are quite a bit lower than they are in the States. So if we're going to make this work, we have to find a way to take better care of our workers always, and at the same time be able to make money. Our investments in the Southern Hemisphere are greater than they are in the Northern Hemisphere because of where we're located geographically. You can appreciate that getting materials to South America is more complicated than it is within the United States, Canada, or within Europe. Those are some of the things that we have to deal with, and I think those are things that Mountain Capital Partners has to be aware of, and And as I always say, it's sometimes, or as we all say, it's sometimes better to listen than to act before you act, or listen intensely before you move. And I think that that's the challenge that Martin Capital Partners would have. It would be easy for a company like them to come in the door and say, we have the experience with all these ski areas, and this is the way we're going to do it. Well, that's not going to work. That's not going to work if you just try and transfer all the know-how that you've used in the other ski areas into a Latin environment. And, that's pretty much my thoughts on that.
I'm curious how plugged in you still are up at Valle and La Parva, and if you're hearing from locals, from folks you might be used to work with, how is MCP settling in? Are they doing a good job? Is it a transition period? What are you hearing?
It's a transition period for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in terms of both ski areas, they inherited or they bought into infrastructure that needs a lot of work. There's a lot of good infrastructure there, but the reality was that the sellers were fairly tight-fisted because they were selling, and that certainly is a challenge. I think that going into this season and looking forward to next, Ricardo Margulis, who is actually the GM of the company down here, he's been very adamant about upgrading the things that needed upgrading and getting back on a serious maintenance timeline. And I think that that's part of the transition that they have to make. Sometimes the consumer says, okay, you bought it, it's got to be perfect now. And that's not always the case. So I think that they'll get in the groove, and I think that they do know what every ski area needs. Mountain Capital Partners operations guy, JR, is a guy that has a tremendous amount of knowledge on the mountainside, and certainly James Coleman, one of the principals, he's passionate about running good ski areas. And though it's not an easy road to get there, I think it's going to be a good thing. Certainly, when I say that, my comments appeal to the vast majority of American ski areas. We can't all be Vail Resorts and Altera, and the business is not an easy business. It's intense in capital, and we have all the issues of other industries, like with personnel, with housing, with benefits, creating new customers, keeping one versus the cost of going out and getting a new customer. Those are all things that we have to face anywhere in the world.
So the industry has responded a number of ways to the rise of Vail and Altera and their big passes. And MCP has one model, and they have their own pass. Another model is the Indy Pass, which you actually joined this year as the first Southern Hemisphere ski area to do so. So talk about your motivation there, Jimmy, and how that's worked out so far and what you hope to achieve with Indy.
Okay, I'll be brutally honest with you.
Yeah.
Indy Pass is with us because I became very frustrated with the exposure that Valle Nevada was gaining with Mountain Collective and with Icon Pass in the Northern Hemisphere. We're a much smaller ski area than they are, but I live on the premise of never say die. And finally, I was able, after a few years, to connect with Doug Fish, and boy, he was just great. I gave him the elevator pitch basically, and he said, "Let's do something." And basically, what it does for us is it gets us out there. You might even know, Stuart, information that I don't know as to how many actually Indy passes are issued, but for us, it's an incredible marketing vehicle. We truly look to receive North American skiers through the Indy Pass. We've put together some packages for them to be able to extend their stays. Indy Pass has the particularity that you get 2 days of skiing for the pass you purchase in each of the ski areas. So, coming all the way to Chile to ski 2 days in Corralco probably isn't the biggest Benny on the planet, but we put that together with packages for Indy Pass holders that allow them to come down for a week. Strongly recommend to the folks that, as I said, that they visit more than one region of Chile in their experience of coming to Chile. And for us as Corralco, we view it as a magnificent opportunity to get our name out there in the North American market, and we're going to be doing more of that. We're developing a relationship right now with ski.com to place Corralco on a different level than what we've been at, and that's been part of our plan because many people may not realize that our primary international market is Brazil. And Brazilians are really a funny clientele. They love anything that they don't have. And two things they don't have that Chile has is snow and desert. Right. And the Brazilian market for us is very important. And it's a very large population with a significant segment of it that can become international skiers. So Brazil, Indy Pass, North America, all part of where we're going, and we hope we get there sooner than later.
So, as you said, Chile's a long way to go for Americans to ski 2 days, but there's a lot of skiing down there. How important do you think it is eventually that Indy develop a network of resorts across Chile and Argentina? I realize you're head of Chilean Ski Area Association. Maybe you've been encouraging this and see this happening, but do you think that eventually, is that your hope that Indy gets 5, 6, a dozen ski areas down there so folks can be incentivized maybe with that road trip or loop or air trip? I don't know if you can drive across the Andes.
That absolutely. In fact, I have next week I have 2 conversations with 2 different ski areas to tell them about our experience with Indy Pass. And that's certainly something that Eric and Doug want to move on here. We thought it was nice of them to say part of the marketing deal you can get Corralco as being the first ones in, and they've made that work for this first summer season or first opportunity for Indy Pass holders. And I think it's important for there to be a network. And, if you can come to Chile and I can draw you a dream scenario. A dream scenario would be I come to Chile, I fly to Temuco, I spend 3 days in Corralco, pay 2. Then I go to Valle Nevado or La Parva or El Colorado, and I spend 3 days skiing there and pay 2. And then I go to Portillo and I spend 3 days there and pay 2. And I got a 10-day vacation where I've had a cultural, a geographic, a mountain experience that's absolutely magnificent.
So folks do come down from America. I've skied at El Colorado, and I'll never forget the access road drive. I was in a shuttle. I didn't do it myself. But is there something similar going up to Corralco? And obviously, super easy to just get into Santiago, go up to the mountains right there. And you mentioned a regional airport, but just talk to us about getting there, from the best way from the States and then up to the mountain from the airport.
Sure. It's pretty much always an overnight flight from New York, Miami, Dallas, Los Angeles, Chicago. It's an overnight flight from the States, and generally you arrive in Santiago somewhere around 7:00 in the morning. In terms of coming to Corralco, within an hour and a half of landing in Santiago, you get a connecting flight to Temuco, which is an hour and a half flight, a little less than an hour and a half flight, and then you have an hour and a half to get there. So between coming south and going to the ski areas in the central region, not much of a time difference in getting there between what is our roads versus what is the central region's roads. We have no switchbacks. We have a access road that climbs from 900 meters up to 1,300 meters in 12 kilometers. So there are no curves. There is no huge altitude change. And, we like to say that we have the ski area has the easiest accessibility of any ski area in Chile. And that really is true. So flying into Santiago, easy switch to get to Temuco, which is the regional airport in the city of Temuco. And then a little bit more than an hour and a half to get here. And you can be checked in and heading out the door to go skiing by noon.
Can't wait to get down and see it for myself. Jimmy, I'm so glad we got this one done. I really appreciate you reaching out and really impressed with everything you're doing down at Corralco. So I know you got a resort to run. I will give you your day back, but thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Stuart. And remember, mi casa es tu casa.
Gracias. All right, that was Jimmy Ackerson, General Manager of Corralco, Chile. Thank you so much for that, Jimmy. I am so glad we could finally make that one happen. It is so cool to see what you're building down there, and I cannot wait to come and see it for myself. Tons more podcasts in the pipeline. I have conversations already recorded with the leaders of Waterville Valley, Taos, Snowmass, and many, many more. You will want to subscribe to the Storm Skiing newsletter at stormskiing.com to get those conversations the moment they're live. You can also follow the Storm on X, Instagram, and YouTube at Storm Ski Journal. Until next time, stay well, stay safe. I'm Stuart Winchester, and I'll talk to you again very soon.
The Storm Skiing Podcast is a Quicksilver Films production.